Well, hello everyone. Today I have a special guest video from my friend Nathan Hood, who's going to be talking about a legendary Batman comic called The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. I should mention this is not the first time I've discussed Batman on the channel. In fact, I have a complete guide for getting into the comics, which has racked up a lot of views in the 4 years since it was put out. It's one of the definitive guides anywhere on the internet for getting into the Batman comics. It was also the very first Deepest Lore, where I was doing a bit of a comic run through, and the third episode that proved to be quite short-lived because I got sidetracked and did other things. But then later I did do a Batman month on Deepest Lore, where among other things I got to interview the legendary writer Chuck Dixon, as well as looking at the comics again and various other things. Batman is a fascinating character for us. He's fascinating for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that many of us have avatars and alter egos online. For example, obviously my real name is not Academic Agent. Many of you know what my real name is and you've seen my real face. Although I like to joke and say that the real name and the real face are the mask, and Academic Agent is the real person, in a tribute to the fact that they say that Batman is the real character and Bruce Wayne is the mask. I think that many of us are obsessive like Batman is, and I'm a night owl as well. So there are lots of things, personal reasons why Batman is interesting to me. But there's also the question of his amazing rogues gallery and his villains, and the fact that the world of Gotham and the world of Batman comics and even Batman on TV or in the movies often has a kind of reactionary attitude to justice and rehabilitation and notions of revenge as well. Almost none of the core Batman villains ever get rehabilitated. They always repeat offend. There's always this notion that the Joker especially, that he stays in Arkham just because he feels like it. He could bust out any time and there is zero chance of him ever not being evil, for example. And even though there have been various attempts over the years to, write a liberal Batman or something like that, the world of it is inherently not. And the assumptions behind the whole comic are non-liberal or illiberal. One writer who was very interested in this was the late Jonathan Bowden, who's got a whole collection somewhere. I remember his whole thesis was that Batman is kind of an allowable fascist within the liberal state. Okay, he ends up, defending this liberal order ultimately, but he does so using fascist means. In fact, at various times in history, the left have actually attacked Batman on exactly these grounds as being a kind of a latent or closet fascist. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I'll remind everybody buy courses of the Academic Agency, and after this quick advert we will have Nathan Hood on Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns.
Order now from the Academic Agency.
Recently, I picked up a copy of Frank Miller's 1986 miniseries, The Dark Knight Returns. This was a seminal entry in superhero comics, and I think one of the reasons why it has been so influential is because it pushes the paradoxes underlying the Batman stories to their extremes. It forces the reader to confront the aspects of their liberal, modern, individualistic worldview that we'd rather not explore, the things we bury deep down about ourselves and our society. It does so by imagining for us the consequences of a real-life Batman. Can a man's nature change? This is a central question throughout the mini-series. We see it first and foremost in the character of Bruce Wayne. We meet him 10 years following his retirement from the role of Batman. The pale colouring in the panels reveals the absence of vitality in his life. He is an empty shell of a man, wandering the grey streets of Gotham. A flash of red greets us as Wayne is attacked by the mutants, a gang of youths who do not rob for money or kill for gold. They delight in causing mayhem, in terrorising Gotham. They are the nihilistic scourge. In this encounter, something awakens in Wayne, a taste of his old life, of the power within him he is trying to suppress. As Gotham spirals into anarchy, Wayne is drawn towards his old haunts. He returns to the Batcave, where once more we are met with the colour of Robin's costume. He remembers the deaths of his parents in flashing blue. And within him, something burns, bright, fierce and beautiful. Try as he might, the 55-year-old cannot stop it from bursting forth once more. So, one night, the Batman returns. Across the city he makes his presence known, protecting innocents and thwarting muggers, rapists and murderers, his blue cape and yellow insignia a terror to the criminals who plague Gotham. And, for the first time in 10 years, he feels right. He's alive. He's filled with energy, and the pages are now dripping with colour. Mirroring Wayne's transformation into Batman are the characters of Harvey Dent, also known as Two-Face, and the Joker. At the beginning of the story, they are both locked up in Arkham Asylum. Dent has been undergoing considerable psychological treatment under the supervision of Dr. Bartholomew Wolper for his diagnosed psychosis. At the same time, Dr. Herbert Williams has undertaken facial reconstruction surgery on Dent's face. The results are such that Dent is deemed fit to return to society. On release, he does appear a changed man. With his new, dashing looks, he delivers a press conference asking for forgiveness while pledging himself to a life of public service. The same pattern is seen with the Joker. Since the disappearance of the Batman 10 years ago, he has been comatose. He has been alive, he has had his eyes open, but he has been unresponsive to the world. However, on hearing of the return of the Dark Knight, he begins to function once more. Dr. Wolper works to psychologically help the Joker, believing he is helping his patient become sane. He goes further, arranging for the Joker to appear on a late-night talk show, both as part of his rehabilitation and to show that the Joker is a sensitive human being who has been the victim of Batman, drawn into the net of a psychosocial drama created by the Caped Crusader. More on that later. Dr. Wolper articulates a worldview that was prevalent during the 20th century. Figures like Sigmund Freud established the discipline of psychology, studying and experimenting on the human mind. Freud and his followers believed that by curing the human mind, psychology could be used to heal broken individuals and to create a healthy society. At the same time, there was a movement within the justice system away from a punitive model which sentenced criminals according to their pain or what they deserved, what the crime merited, and they move away from this towards a restorative form of treatment. The criminal was no longer seen as a bad man who had done a bad thing. Rather, he was a sick individual who needed to be treated for his illness. The prison system was there to remake the criminal into a fit member of society through medical practice. And you can find out more about these ideas in the 20th century by watching AA's excellent series with Simon Roberts on Adam Curtis's documentaries. Now, C.S. Lewis, Thomas Szasz and Paul Gottfried have all highlighted the nefarious dimensions of this therapeutic state. No longer does the criminal get what he deserves. Now he is kept imprisoned indefinitely until his pathology is cured. The definition of pathology expands further and further as the expert class seek more power over our lives and to criminalize their political opponents. Examples of this include the figures Wilhelm Reich and Theodor Adorno, who identified the National Socialists as suffering from a psychosis caused by sexual repression, while the Soviet Union under Lenin and Stalin treated Christian dissidents as suffering from a disease that they attempted to cure through electrical experimentation on the brain. At the end of the process, if a man or woman can be remade by such psychological techniques, who knows what kind of creature will be produced? What automan? What empty vessel? Think of the figures in 1984. Ultimately, our relationship with the state is changed by these ideas, by these relations. We are treated like wards or pets, owned and ruled by totalitarian specialists. Despite top-of-the-range psychiatric treatment paid for by Bruce Wayne, Harvey Dent falls back into his persona as Two-Face. Even before his release, Dent was worried that he was incapable of being cured, that he would relapse into a life of crime. Shortly after being let out of the asylum, he rejoins his gang. He plans a major attack on Gotham's Twin Towers. Landing bombs on the target, he hacks the TV antenna. Appearing on the news, Dent threatens to blow up the two towers and kill thousands unless he receives $5 million. Batman intervenes and foils Dent's plan. Seeing his scheme come to ruin, Two-Face throws himself from the towers, only to be saved by Batman. The two men talk. They are mirror reflections, unable to suppress their darker sides. And consequently, Dent wants to end it. He wants to escape the monster the only way he knows how, through the tunnel of death. The same tale plays out with the Joker. Appearing on live TV, he goes on a killing spree. He slaughters the panel, including his advocate Dr. Wolper, and the television audience. He then goes on the run, murdering more innocents at a theme park. It takes Batman pummeling the Joker into an inch of his life for the carnage to stop. As a result, the psychiatrists have failed. Dent, the Joker, they could not change. They could not be remade. They could not be rehabilitated. And this is why these men, these villains, threaten the modern progressive worldview. The progressive wants to believe that a mixture of psychological treatment and social engineering can redeem everyone, anyone. For they think deep down that everyone is good, and those who do bad things are the victims of social circumstances and psychological trauma. Overturn the oppressive restraints and criminality will be cured. And underlying this set of beliefs is an overriding conviction that, through the powers of the managerial state and the instruments of science and technology, we can control everything. We can master the psychological, the social and environmental. We can do what we will with the human body and mind. We can remake it so that it is functional, so that it works within our systems with the ways that we want to run the world. We can do with it what we will. And, of course, there is an amazing sense of power in believing that we have that ability. The truth is, nature cannot be bound. Human ingenuity is limited. No matter how hard we try, we cannot suppress two things. First, we cannot eradicate the shadow side of our personalities. We can try, we can push it down, we can deny it, we can mock it, we can characterize it as being evil and something which we should never even express or allow a place in our lives, but ultimately it will resurface as it did for Bruce Wayne, Harvey Dent, and the Joker. And depending on how we go about it, it may manifest in ways which are virtuous or ways which are destructive. Second, we cannot cure the shadow side of our societies. Monsters exist. They want to destroy our lives. They want to cause mayhem and kill us. We can only ignore the reality for so long. Eventually, they will burst forth once more if we do not maintain a vigilant defense. Even then, they may still break through. It is delusional to pretend otherwise. It is delusional to not act accordingly. Batman recognizes this reality. That is why he is willing to go beyond the law and assault and torture criminals in order to save Gotham, though his inability or refusal to kill the Joker haunts him and raises questions about his willingness to stop the monsters. Nonetheless, Miller's miniseries raises a potential counterpoint to this narrative. As mentioned earlier, the mutants are a gang of youths. They commit random acts of violence. It transpires that they are led by a hulking brute, a powerful and quick savage who is in many ways the inspiration behind Bane in the film The Dark Knight Rises. Batman realizes that the mutants are bound together by the charisma of their leader. Defeat him, you bring down the gang. And so, after initially being crushed by the mutant leader, Batman returns to triumph over his foe. But the interesting thing is what happens next. Some of the mutants form a new gang, the Sons of Batman, dedicated to following their new champion. They accept him as their leader, for he overthrew the old leader. It's a very primal, tribal way of life. As anarchy escalates in Gotham, Batman takes direct control of the gang and channels their violence. He directs them to use their fists to stop criminality in Gotham, to protect the innocents, and to punish evildoers, eventually making Gotham into the safest city in the whole of America. By the end of the miniseries, Bruce Wayne retires from active duty to train the Sons of Batman, having finally found purpose beyond the costume he once wore. He has found a good life. The Sons of Batman, then, appear to go on a redemption arc. They start out as nihilistic thugs who bring Gotham to its knees. Though they continue to operate outside of the law, their aggressive, violent tendencies are redirected towards a noble end, the safety of the people of Gotham. Once agents of chaos, they are now the defenders of order. And it is interesting that they are made up of Gotham's youth. They are a manifestation of a vital form of life, dangerous energy that cannot be contained by the structures of the old world. The bureaucrats, managers, TV talking heads, and psychiatric experts have no answer to their fighting, volatile spirit. They do not belong within the urban modern world. They are something which cannot be bound by it. Instead, change comes in the form of a new leader, the Batman. As the 19th century philosopher Thomas Carlyle argued, most of us are driven by a deep-seated desire, which he called hero worship. We have a natural tendency to admire, to obey, to love great individuals, those who have a strength of character to impose their will upon the world. We follow their lead unto the ends of the earth. We would fight for these great men. We would die for these great men. In the modern world, we have this impulse satiated, albeit in a weak form, by sports stars, celebrities, politicians, perhaps even YouTube figures. In The Dark Knight Returns, the mutants want to follow something purer and more authentic than the media circus. They want to follow somebody who is worthy of following. So, they follow the mutant leader, a man committed to wreaking havoc in Gotham for its own sake. He may have evil desires, but he is absolutely sincere in them. He is the incarnation of them. And so, they imitate his appearance and actions. They become his disciples. When Batman overthrows their leader, they then pledge their loyalty to the Dark Knight. They wear his symbol and follow his orders. They begin to hero worship the Batman. Batman, the perfect blend of hero and symbol, is the great man of Gotham. He draws its inhabitants into his orbit as he seeks to impose his vision upon the city. He's not afraid of what the authorities, the legal ramifications are of what he does. He does it because he believes it is right. In the case of the mutants, this has a positive effect. They are changed by his leadership and example. They are redeemed. They are the shadow utilized and directed towards a good end. They are violence used to uphold that which is good, that which should be maintained. But, as Dr. Wolper pointed out, Batman's primal form of power can awaken in others a darkness. For example, several mentally ill men end up killing innocents, believing that they are helping the Batman's cause or are indeed the Batman himself. The Joker awakes from a comatose state when he hears that Batman has returned and goes on to create havoc and carnage. He goes on to kill others. He becomes the Joker once more. The same kind of vitality Bruce Wayne found in his vigilantism is tapped into by a whole host of characters who enter into the costume story. They find meaning in the battles conducted by the Caped Crusader, either on his side or against him. The quest that drives him and makes him a great man consumes those around him, whether for good or ill. We could put it almost as if, Bruce Wayne finds his self-actualization in the character of Batman, but by the same token, the Joker, in opposition to Batman, finds his true calling, finds himself fully alive as the arch nemesis of the Batman. We might push these ideas further and look at the works of Carl Jung, the psychologist and one-time follower of Sigmund Freud. He argued that National Socialism was not the product of psychosis or pathology, unlike Wilhelm Reich and Theodor Adorno. Rather, it was the outward manifestation of a certain kind of agency, the spirit of Wotan. Neither a supernatural deity nor a purely material reality, the spirit of Wotan was a kind of ferocious, frenzied possession, a tornado within soul and society that tears down all that has no strong foundations. No individual, even Hitler, created or controlled this spirit. Rather, it was a social phenomenon, a way of being that erupted in the hearts of Germans in the 1930s, and it exercised a control over their thoughts, feelings and actions, including those in high-up positions. They were almost directed by this spirit, we might call it. In esoteric circles, it might be called an egregore, an agent created by collective attitudes and consciousnesses that takes on a life of its own. So it might originate within a group of people, their mood towards a certain thing or in a certain place, but then it takes on a life of its own and actually reinforces that mood within them. And so too we can see this with the Batman. Bruce Wayne is just as much caught up in the collective psychology of the Batman as is the Joker, Harvey Dent, and the mutants. The Batman is an archetype, an egregore or spirit that possesses the inhabitants of Gotham. depending on who they are, they react to the symbol of the Batman, grounded in but bigger than the man Bruce Wayne. The Batman is a vortex which transforms men and women into beings with agency and morality. That's why it is so appealing. That's why it draws people in. They can be redeemed, like the sons of Batman, or they can become villains, like Dent and the Joker. But they do not stay neutral, and they find vitality, they find energy, they find a sincerity and authenticity in who they are in this drama, which is contained within the symbol of the Batman. And they are forced to react to this new reality, to the mythic power of this symbol. And through this interaction, they find meaning. We might say they become who they truly are. And what should strike us is that we too have a collective consciousness. There is a spirit that controls Britain, America, the West. Within it, there are roles and characters that we inhabit, parts we play without even realizing it. Our concepts, our language are very much bound up with this spirit. So much of what we take for granted, what gives meaning to our lives, is bound up with this story. Many of us are dissatisfied with the narrative we inhabit. It feels broken, unnatural, insincere, lacking authenticity. But until a new spirit is born, until a Batman comes forth, there will be no sea change to the waters we swim in. It will take a hero, a symbol bigger than the man who inhabits it, to redeem us and our society. And when it comes, it is something which is beyond the control of the managerial elite. That's why they fear it so much. It is something of such raw potential, like Votan, like Batman, that it draws into people into it, and they cannot control that. And actually they find themselves becoming greater, more powerful, becoming lions in a world of pure technocracy, bureaucracy, which deadens life, which makes it grey. And so, these ideas, these themes, this power which we find in Batman, is the reactionary call at the heart of Miller's mini-series. A call which confronts each and every reader. And, through this video, the Batman now confronts you too.
If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe. You can join the channel for thousands of hours of past shows in the archive and hundreds of videos. If you have any questions, you can leave a super chat or a super thanks, and I'll be sure to pick it up during my weekly office hours, which run every Tuesday afternoon. I also provide courses at the academic agency, which I encourage people to buy. Thousands of students now have taken the Trivium to improve their skills in writing, logic and rhetoric. Just 3 of many courses available. Buy it now. But most importantly of all, friends, get out.